Good evening and welcome to the HUUSD School Board meeting for April 8th. It is 6:04 and we are starting the meeting, calling the meeting to order. Do we see anybody? There's no one here in the room for public comment. Is there anyone in Zoom, Dr. Mike? Okay. That's Caitlin. Catron. We don't have her little thing up there. Sorry, I don't know if we have a little sign for you yet. Oh, we do. Oh, good. Okay. All right. I don't know about Jill, but I did. Okay. I don't see anyone for public comment, so we'll move on to approving the agenda. Before we approve this agenda, we would like to amend it. Hi there. Are you Jill? You can sit right in the hot seat right there. We're just getting to you. Approving the agenda, we're going to make a slight amendment to allow us to vote on a letter that the Public Outreach Committee has been working on, that we've have sent a draft around, so people should be aware of it. And that is going to take place after Dr. Mike talks about his 220. I don't know if somebody's sharing, but it's not me. All right. That's you, yes. Thank you. It's Lang. It's okay. Yeah. So the amendment we're looking to make is to add a vote on a letter to send to our leadership in Montpelier that it concerns Act 220. It was drafted by Steve and worked on by the Public Outreach Committee with then a little even more help from, I think, more members of the board, because the finished product is really great. So I'm looking for an amendment, someone to make a motion to amend the agenda to vote on Steve's letter somebody make that.
I move to amend the agenda so we can vote on Steve's letter.
Do we have a second? Second from Emily. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. I'm terrible at amendments. Okay, luckily for us, this very nice lady sitting in front of us is Jill Sackett, and she has stepped up to fill our last vacant spot that when Corey Hack got off for his personal reasons. So our first thing with you, Jill, is to have you sit right there and talk to us a little bit. And I also want to welcome Molly Gray, who is also here. Hi, Molly. Yeah, she's just here to listen and understand what we're dealing with. So we appreciate you being here. All right, Jill, we're going to put you in the hot seat. These mics are somewhat frustrating. You have to speak right into it. You can pull it towards you and you can turn it on by pressing the button. And basically we just, we've all read your resume and your letter, and we have a little familiarity with you, and we just like to hear your motivation for being here and a little bit about yourself.
I guess my motivation is mostly you guys needed. Oops, sorry. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Is that good? Okay. The motivation, you had a vacancy that needed to be filled, and I've been trying to figure out ways I could become a useful member of my community. So that sort of felt glaring. And I think that's the biggest part. And I used to teach, so I just miss the schools. Not that, we're in a school. I recognize we're not like teaching, but
you have a student here?
I do.
Yes.
My oldest is here. He's a junior.
Okay.
Nate Sackett. And I've been so pleased, by the way, with the school here for him. And I have two other kids. My daughter's coming in to 9th grade. She's going to start here. My son is at the Waldorf. My other son is at the Waldorf school. He has his things he needs from there right now. but yeah, I'm invested for my children's sake, but also for children's sake in general. I think you can tell from my resume that that's always been my focus, is what, like, how we can help our kids. You might also be able to tell from my resume that I find that I try one way to help them and then I feel like a little bit of a brick wall and then I turn and see if this is the better way to help. And then, so there's been, but it's always with that idea of like, how can I help people and children in general? And I like working with people. So I thought felt like a nice, and I would be remiss to say, and I'm not trying to like get brownie points, but every interaction I've had with Dr. Mike has been nothing shy of incredible. So that also that's helped too. So anyway,
Awesome.
don't know if that's
Not to jump in, since you mentioned my name, I do have to mention and ask you, if I may, ask you to talk a little bit about, because you've been very humble in saying about your background. But when you put your resume in, John, who's the special education director, and I've been in public education for 35 years.
They've been
Your current job is so critical and vital, and we just do not have many child psychiatrists. So if you could talk a little bit about your background, and we are so thrilled when you put your name in, and bringing that perspective, knowing that's such great need, not just in our state, but around our country.
Yeah, and I would say in our state in particular, it's actually been a very difficult thing to break into to help the kids in this community and around this community. I have to argue I failed at that right now. Sorry, I got lost in the question because I thought about that too much.
Just your background at this.
Just my background. Okay, so I worked, I graduated medical school from Jefferson down in Philadelphia and then did my residency there and then my fellowship in child psychiatry at CHOP. I then worked in a juvenile detention center for, I don't know if it was a year or two, it felt like 20. Talk about hitting walls. I felt like a prisoner. I felt hopeless. I was taking on all of the kids' feelings and there was good reason they didn't trust me. I was another suburban white woman telling them what to do and I had no clue their lives. That was a very desperate, that was the first way I tried to go in to help children, was through that lens, but, yeah, right. I jumped into the deep end. Yes, I definitely did, with very little background in, anything yet. And I shouldn't say that was the first way, because really first I was a teacher, but, and then I sort of started, or I didn't sort of start. I started also right away working in a fellowship program back at Jefferson, and I would help to sort of organize the didactic curriculum and teach where I could to the fellows, and also occasionally to med students. I loved that, but for a few different reasons that just needed to end, partly COVID. And then I started working outpatient in a setting with adults, children, adolescents, all ages, and just really loved that mix and loved working outpatient. And that's still what I'm doing. And in terms of in the school system and watching kids flounder in the schools who have mental health needs, and then watching teams wrap around them when they're in a good enough school, that's been really amazing to see, like the IEPs that work. I do sometimes have some concern that the IEPs demand too much from our teachers, but that's potentially a different conversation for a different day. I'm not sure where else to go.
That's good enough. Thank you.
Okay.
Does anybody here have any questions for our candidate?
Interactions with Mike. I just want to make sure you're aware those may happen at like 8 p.m. on a Zoom. They're still amazing. I just, it's he gets into it. So we're excited to have you. I mean, I was going to ask you some form of what you were just talking about. And I think part of like one of the things I've thought about when people are joining is that ignorance can be kind of a depreciating asset. You know, you don't know what we're talking about right now. And it's great that you want to get involved. I'm curious, though, given your perspective, like what should be on our agenda, you know, in terms of, because we talk a lot about property taxes here. That's another thing you need to understand about what education policy has become. And it seems to me that you probably arrive at this from a very different place. And I think that's really important. And so I'm curious what you would want to put at the top of the list for us. Not given Harwood specifically, right? I'm not going to hold you to that, but I just like in terms of what you know about are the kids all right? And how do we need to think about it?
I mean, first place, I think I should just say that I get your question and I'm not in a position to actually say, right, because I don't know what the things you guys talk about, right, and how important they are. And I, you know, speaking to Ashley a little bit, know that a lot of this is the attack from the government into the schools, and that's a lot of the agenda. So first, just stating I really don't know, and I'm very quick person to be the first one to be like, I don't know what I don't know, you know, like and then, I mean, I think the no phones policy that you all initiated was so important. It just, you know, it speaks volumes to the recognizing part of the problem. So I really think it's helped socially. I mean, I guess these guys can help us know more, but the difference for even just my son, him interacting with friends and people and actually becoming a student of the school versus, right? It's clearly made a huge difference, even though he didn't love it. I think, you know, Sweden just, I don't know if you guys saw in the news that they've recently gotten rid of all their screens in school. I mean, honestly, I think that's brilliant. But, you know, again, I'm not going to push that agenda. That's not where I'm coming from. You're just, you know, so, but I think that's a brilliant thing for student health, for children, for all of our health, for all of us, less screen time. And just kind of going back to the paper and pen. And then I just think the more inclusive we can be, to different learning needs, to different emotional needs, to different backgrounds. Yeah, I mean, and then just having, you know, students know, I mean, you guys, that was one thing I remember when I toured here and when Nate was going to start going here, and I think it's gone now, but being so impressed, there was so much mental health. There was that one room kids could go into, I know they abused it or something, or misused it or something went wrong with it. That one room they could just go to. Yeah. And then there was like a group therapy room or something. And I just remember being like, wow, this school's figured this out. And then I was saying, I think to Ashley at CrossFit Brook, when I was touring there, the fact that like there was a movement room for those kids. They could just go and move their body in different directions, or they could go and go into the other room and do a puzzle or just sit and breathe or whatever. It was just, to me, I feel like you guys have really knocked all of that stuff kind of out of the park. So I'm not sure I have much more to add.
No,
to
that's
that.
great. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the caveat. And I will just say, you know, I feel like more than half the meetings I've been at since I joined the board have someone from the public has brought up the tech policy, phone policy. So you're not off base. I think it's great to have someone who's joining who brings your perspective to that issue. It's really important. Thanks.
Just to give credit where it's due, teachers initiated that movement to ban phones here, and the school board, all we did was support it, but we did not, it was a grassroots effort from teachers saying we need to get our students back. And the students will attest, we've eased into it, right? People don't abuse it anymore, or, you know, it's over kind of, which is great. They're like, okay, Well, I did consult with the Waterbury Select Board. Don Schneider and I had a phone call about Jill, who I don't think they know you specifically, but they also read your letter and your resume, and they were thrilled that you had stepped up, and they give their support for your appointment. So that box is checked. And I allotted 5 minutes to talk about that, but that was it. We talked. He was really they were just really pleased. And they're still looking for a select board member if anybody wants another board to jump on. They don't have anybody yet, I don't think. So the appointment that we're talking about is for 1 year, Jill. It's to fill out 1 year till town meeting of a 2 year, what's left in a 3-year term, which was 2 years vacated by Corey Hackett. So what we would like to appoint you once we have a little vote is for just that 1 year for your experimental phase. Then if you want to stay, you will run again on town meeting in 27. So do I have a motion to appoint Jill Sackett to our board? Bobby makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Emily. Does anyone want any further discussion or abstention? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those nays or abstentions, speak your piece. None. Unanimously, we will welcome you to the board, ma'am. Thank you very much. And now we have this great new function where we have 2 JPs on the board, Cindy and Bobby. So if you'll stand up, Bobby's going to swear you in, and we're going to have you join this meeting right now. I slacked and didn't make a plaque, but terrible at public.
Sorry. Okay. So I will.
She says
to both to speak.
Bid 2 applicants, I think.
No, this is okay. I'm good. I think I can do
He's very young.
my pen down. All right.
I was wrong about that. Evan Hoffman was elected to the Waterbury School Board. So, I mean,
The
select
Waterbury
board.
Select Board.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So
Can
now-
everyone hear us? Yeah.
Yep. Bobby's going to swear Jill in as a board member.
Okay. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Jill Sackett, do solemnly swear that I will be true and faithful to the state of Vermont, and that I will not, directly or indirectly, do any act or thing.
Do any act or thing
There we go. Turn it on. Injurious to the Constitution or government thereof.
injurious to the Constitution or government thereof.
Okay, and you can also affirm by saying under pains and penalties of perjury.
Under pains and penalties of perjury.
Okay. And then, is it optional, so help me God? It's okay, what we did? Okay. You can say it.
So help me God.
All right. So, the oath of office. I, Jill Sackett,
I, Jill Sackett,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office of school board director
that I will faithfully execute the office of school board director
for the state of Vermont
for the state of Vermont
and will therein do equal right and justice to all persons
and will therein do equal right and justice to all persons
to the best of my judgment and ability,
to the best of my judgment and ability,
according to law,
according to law.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. You like that. Oh, it's not turning off. Okay, we did it.
All right. Now I just
Now you. Okay. and there's no.
Okay, it's official. Jill Sackett has joined the board. Okay. Yes. Okay, here we go. Thank you, Jill. We're all grateful. We now have our complete board, 14 people, and I think everyone's here. JB will be late, but otherwise, I think we're all here. Hey, mind your business. Okay. He's got a sporting event with his children. Okay. First, everyone read the leadership report that we attached. We are always attaching that on a Monday, and we apologize, but we kind of want it to be completely current, so we're waiting till the end. So if you got it, it was a link inside the agenda, which is how it will normally come. I'm not going to belabor it. It was mostly just informational. So for this student report, we have asked our two senior boys, Grady and Cashel, to talk to us about what they're doing for college. So Cashel, why don't you start? And then Grady, why don't you go next? Or whatever you want to do. I don't care how you do it.
Like where I'm going? Sure. So I'm going to Columbia University. Appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. And yeah. Well, I got rejected from Brown ED, and then I had like IUV Day. I was waitlisted at Cornell, rejected from Harvard, got into Columbia, and then it was Columbia, or I think it was GW actually. I got 40 a year there, so that was nice. Then it was like made Columbia work financially, so I was able to commit.
That is outstanding.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
What's my plan?
What are you studying?
Political science. Yeah. But you don't decide your major until sophomore year, and they have a really good history program too. So I don't know. We'll look at everything, but one of the two probably on a pre-law track.
Nice. Exciting. Great. Yay. Well, we're psyched. Okay, Grady, let's hear from you.
So, I will be going, well, this is actually like first I'm announcing it because I'm still waiting on my visa, but I will be going to Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario.
Wonderful.
Bachelor of the Arts. I don't know exactly what yet. Yeah, there's a lot of options there. Anything else? It's Canada, so that'll be fun.
Boo boo.
Currently in a bit of a gridlock because I need to get a couple letters before I can start applying for the visa. And they have not come yet. But once they do,
Get letter to apply.
it's a letter from the Canadian government and a letter from the school. I use them together through a visa program. It's a long process, but I am very sketchy. Yeah, that's what it is. But yeah, I'm very excited, and it's going to be an interesting experience.
Yay.
And
that is great news. I'm proud of both of you. We'll miss you both.
And we do have some things to say about what's going on in the building right now.
All right, let's hear it.
So unfortunately, we do not have a slideshow. Charlotte and I have been very busy as of late. But we are willing to, there's some things going on that we'd like to share. First up, the spring musical was last weekend, Hadestown. They all did very well. It's a very good musical. I heard people saying that it was the best Harwood one they've ever seen. So that's pretty exciting. Round of applause to all of those guys. Charlotte, you want to talk about spring sports?
Yeah, so spring sports have started. Baseball, softball, they're still in the gym. They're doing their throwing and catching and running. Girls lacrosse, we just had our first practice outside this afternoon, which was great. And boys lacrosse, it just had their scrimmage versus Rice up at Rice's turf. It was a close game. I can get updates later. And tennis has a very large team. They have a practice team and a playing team. So
Their first
Yeah.
thing is next Tuesday.
First match.
First match is going to be a home match next Tuesday at the Waterbury Courts.
Everyone get excited for tennis.
Yeah.
And then track is doing their thing. They were practicing javelin and javelin and shot put in the parking lot the other day, but today they were out on the track because of the nice weather.
Yeah.
And Emma let us know she is at softball practice, so she plans to be here, but it'll be a little late.
Jim.
Another thing that happened, was it today or yesterday? It was yesterday. Is we have, like every year, sent some of our kids over to Denmark. A group of 20 Harwood students from the CSC class, they're all juniors, except for one senior who's filming them this time. So they're going to have a nice little movie of all of this. I've gone to Denmark for a week and a half. I don't know the exact numbers. 10 days? 10 days. They are going to be staying at a board, or it's called an after school. It's like a boarding school there. Going back to host families for the weekend and then going back to the school before coming back to the U.S. I think it was 20 when I talked to the teacher. Yeah. So, yeah, we've got some international Harwood people right now.
And we got a report very early this morning that they landed safely. So they are there safely.
All right. One last thing. Spirit Week is coming up in a little while. There's not a lot to say about it right now. He didn't know what to say. We're starting to pick our themes. Each grade has a theme that they make a music video and a mural, and everybody dresses up as a part of the week. Seniors had their big meeting about the theme, which we are not going to share yet because it's a secret. But Cashel's not very happy about the theme. He wanted the theme to be sponges, but
That's inaccurate.
he wants us to lose. We've lost the past 3 years. He wants us to go 4 for 4. But
Our senior class has finished dead last all 3 years. So I'd like to preserve a legacy by maybe continuing that streak, but there's been some.
I am going to make sure we get first place.
Very good.
Yeah, and that's everything we got going on in the building. If there are any questions,
Any questions for the students, Pam?
Go to Canada. Are you going to keep your allegiance with Vermont maple syrup?
well,
When in Canada?
when in Canada, yeah. But my family does make maple syrup, so I might have to stick with Vermont. I don't know what Tim Hortons maple syrup tastes like, though, so we'll have to see.
It's not real.
Well, I'll just follow up on that and say I think it's good that we're sending ambassadors into Canada right now to like put a good face on what's going on, and appreciate you doing it. It will be a great experience, and yeah, I mean it's I'm trying to imagine like going to another country at that age and just like how cool it'll be just to force yourself into a new way of thinking about stuff. But it'll still be familiar. I think it'll be great.
Yeah, they have a lot of international support, so it's like
Yeah.
I'm not going to be just thrown completely into the dark. They did say they have a sweet spot for New England and Vermont in particular, and they recognize that us more than most states are not as affiliated with our country's decisions.
Just be careful. They're Canadian nice. You got to watch out. You just got to watch out.
Yeah.
Yes, you'll be a great envoy for us. Well, that's great, you guys. Thank you, and thank you for those updates. Go ahead, Cindy.
So it's not. Oh, there it goes. Okay, Charlotte, I asked Grady about if anything had happened or if you guys were planning to go ahead. Talking about these guys going on is exciting for sure, but it's sad for us. We'll miss you both a lot, but we look forward to some new student reps. Are you guys doing that or?
Yeah, we are starting the process of sending out information for sophomores to apply next year.
So for new people on the board, we have very little, if anything, to do with how these reps come to us. The seniors choose the next reps, and then when they become seniors, they choose the next rep. So it's not up to us. It's up to them, and they work with the admin to do it. Okay, we're going to move on. Superintendent report was not a written report, right? Because we're in the... Go ahead.
No written report. I did put out notice on Monday that it looks like we are through our mud season and snow season. So our original last day was scheduled to be June 17th. We have said that we are going to work to have 178 calendar day or school days. So I'm put out notice that our 178th day will be that Friday, June 19th, and staff will come in that following Monday. So that information is out. And other than that, I have no updates other than I know there's some questions tonight about some of the bills before the House, and we can cover those later. But if there's anything school related, I'm always happy to take questions.
I appreciate the email you sent out on the 26th about pre-K enrollments. I was just wondering, after the contracts and everything, how did that all end up? Did everyone get the spots they needed?
We were able to make the reductions we needed to meet the budget, and we did not need to have any layoffs. So we were able to find a spot for everyone, which was great news. And so everyone has a spot. Teachers' contracts were issued last Wednesday, April 1st, and teachers have till April 20th to return them. I think to date we have close to 75% returned, and we usually get a good rate. So I would expect that we'll have a high turnout. So pre-K numbers, we are lower than the numbers have been declining as we anticipated, with the addition of the half day, which we were not anticipating in the budget, but we did feel that we needed to make sure we had plenty of options. So the Moortown is full at this moment. We have a little capacity at Warren since we created a third session, and we have a little bit of the capacity at Brookside. Up until this point, Brookside had been the school that had to have a lottery. They have traditionally been very full with their 4 sessions, so the reductions there were a little surprising. The numbers came in about what we expected, although the requests were a little different. We did not expect we have 38. We have 38 at Warren, which we did not expect to have that high of a number, which is wonderful. We were expecting the higher number to be either Brookside or Moortown just because of traffic. A lot of times parents who work north, somewhere off of 89, will request Moortown, but their requests were down a little bit compared to the other 2 schools. And the other exciting thing is one of our goals this year in creating the hubs was to have room for a child care partner at each of the 3 pre-K hubs. Since the state guarantee with Act 166 is 10 hours, we offer about 14 hours, but we wanted to have a partner at each of the 3 sites on site. And prior to this year, we only had a child care partner at the Warren School, the K-PASS program, but this year we will have a child care partner at each of the 3 hubs, Neck of the Woods at Moortown, and then the YWCA's program will operate out of Brookside. So that was, I think, a huge achievement for us. I know some of our parents were saddened to see one of our sites close. We did that because of our declining birth rate. But the plus side is that we will be able to offer 5-day-a-week wraparound care at each of our sites. So I think that is a huge achievement, and we did hear a lot of positives and appreciation from parents on that piece.
Did there end up being a lottery at Moortown or not?
We had to utilize a lottery at Moortown because we were, I don't have the numbers in front of me, I think we were 2 over, but we were able to offer those families a spot at either the Warren program or the Brookside program, which is why we wanted to have additional capacity at Warren as well. And again, just to remind the board, the reason we did not consider that 3rd spot at Moortown is next to Brookside. Moortown is our largest enrolled school, and we could not offer an on-site child care partner a space to operate at the school with going to a 3rd pre-K session. So that's the reason that was a tough choice, but that's the reason we needed that classroom. Moortown is at capacity with the use of classrooms.
Well, the Livewires YWCA question, I'd love to hear if there are any recent updates sort of more clarity around that program since it is new. I realize it's sort of a chicken and egg. Like you need to figure out enrollments before they can staff it. But parents need to understand the parameters and costs and details before they commit to it. So it seems like a tricky thing to just up and start. But if you have any updates to share, like the cost seems pretty steep. And I was wondering if that's set in stone. I think it's about $150 a day, I want to say, when it seems like most childcare is about $85 a day. So I was wondering if that's set in stone. And then the live wires, it's $300 a week, I think, for 2 days a week. I think so.
So I wasn't prepared for that question, but I will bring that to our next board meeting. But we are in the process of finalizing a memorandum of understanding with the Y. They are committed to making the program work this year. And Lisa has the memorandum of understanding with Vermont School Board Insurance Trust, VISBIT as we always refer to them, and they're reviewing it now. So we should be able to, at the next meeting, to be able to give some of the more details. The principals have been doing a lot of the work of coordinating with live wires and with families, but they are some of the pieces that the child care is expensive. We hear that parents, we hear pre-K, and the perspective I bring is that, I was a superintendent in another state for 13 years, and pre-K wasn't something that we were able to offer. So I think not to ignore your question, and I'll come back to that next time, but I also think that context is important with the other pieces that we're talking about when we talk about public education costs, that there's more in our programming and more into our costs than what we are talking about. Childcare, pre-K, childcare is not, but pre-K is one of those costs that is absorbed in our local community. It's a wonderful thing to have and to offer, but to those pieces of our current costs and the rhetoric we hear about our costs are out of control. Our costs are what they are to offer the programs that our families have asked for, and that was one of the programs that was on the table. So childcare is an expense, and that's one of the challenges we have as a community and as a state. So I can get you more of the details. We can do a breakdown at the next board meeting of what those costs are in each of the programs. And we don't control, we're just offering the space at no charge for those partners so they can operate. So our part of that as a school district is to be able to offer space and not add to the costs of them to be able to run their own programs.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the Wise website, and they're saying 89 for 2 days, 106 for 3 days, and 138 for 5 days. But that's not. I don't know what Livewire is. I don't know much about Brookside. Am I missing something?
Why don't we just get the facts and we can bring the information for the next board meeting and kind of share it there, just so we're talking about what the actual costs are.
We just made a note. We will get back on that. Thanks for bringing that up, Theo. Okay, so next we're going to move on to committee board reports from committees. JB is the head of building use and visioning, and he is not here right now. He's going to be a little late tonight, so I'm going to give the update on that because we met last night, and we met on Monday night. It was an incredibly productive meeting in that we had all the admin, all our principals here, as well as Mandy and John and various other members of the admin. And I feel like we got to hear some real honesty and opinions from our admin about what changes as we come into Act 73 and what that's going to mean for us preparing for impossibly inevitable changes where we shrink and figure out the way we're going to lay out the district in the future. We went through all our information from Truex Cullens, and we sort of reviewed through those, and they actually presented their own, which was an interesting option that had putting the whole preschool at the Moortown School, like all preschoolers from Brookside to Warren merging at the Moortown School and then dividing up then the other valley schools absorbing those older kids and it being 3. That's that was kind of a new thing. We hadn't heard of that option before, but it was interesting and they had a lot to say about it. They also had a lot to say about merging middle schools and that kind of thing. So if you're interested, you can watch our video of that meeting. And we are incredibly lucky. Jill, I'll tell you, this is a great group of people who are caring, nurturing people who are here from their community to volunteer to be on this board. But the staff we have and the admin team we have are really exceptional. So we're really lucky. That meeting was incredibly productive and we were there for 1 hour. And we really got into some interesting conversations. So if you're interested to know the details on what they said, please watch that meeting. It's only an hour. That's kind of the update. Mike, you want to?
So for me, it's information I knew, but in that context, in that kind of roundtable discussion, I found it very interesting. One of the pieces we shared was we talked a little bit about current enrollment, the configuration, and the fact that our school district and our 6 towns are 240 square miles, so we're a large area bordered by the Green Mountains, and when the board initially looked at the configurations 2 years ago, the current enrollment showed that it was not at that point necessarily cost effective and feasible to look more at combining any buildings or looking at other configurations. But when we start looking ahead at our enrollment projections now moving forward, and we start looking at where our pre-K class is, where our current kindergarten class is with about 111 students, I asked Dwayne, who had been the principal here 20 years ago, the class size when he was principal. He deferred to Kate Liptak, who graduated from Harvard in the Harvard class of 2005. When she graduated from Harvard, their class was 220. So when you think 220 in 2005 versus our current kindergarten class with 111, there are pieces that we need to think about moving into the future to see what are the best options and what's the best utilization of classes. Kaya also pointed out that her kindergarten class next year will be either 10 students, I think it was 10 students, and it's the smallest in her 16 years as principal. So there are some demographics that we need to consider, and we also need to consider that, again, the current discussions that are coming around the state are not encouraging growth, they're encouraging decline. And we need to really emphasize that we need some policies, I think, as a school and a community that encourage growth, because we can't cut our way to prosperity.
Definitely true. Thank you for that. We're going to hear from Steve from Public Outreach, and then we'll vote on the thing in a little while.
Yeah, so the Public Outreach Committee met last night. We had 2 topics to discuss, and we only got through one, which is the letter we want to discuss later. But I do want to bring up the topic we didn't get to, because we'll get to it at the next meeting, because it ties into the report from the Building Use and Visioning Committee. We want to get a little proactive, or very proactive this year, on addressing the next budget, because it feels to me like it's going to be not just quantitatively worse, but qualitatively worse. As Lisa has said over and over, we've done we've tried to prioritize the cuts so they hurt the least, but we're kind of have run out of options. And as Lisa put it, we're in danger of suffering kind of death by 1,000 cuts. If we just cut and cut and cut, all of a sudden we're dead. So we want to start early to tailor a message to the community that highlights that we're kind of at a breaking point. And this fits in with declining enrollments and other pressures that we're facing. So I just want to alert you to that. We will have a board meeting Tuesday in 2 weeks, and I encourage everybody to attend that committee meeting. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. And that meeting was really productive in that Macon monopolized the entire meeting and made us write a letter together that I think is great. And it's a powerful, it touches on a lot of things that we're mad about. Go ahead, Macon.
Yeah. Thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I mean, please keep going if it was really good. Yeah, no, I'm sorry about that. I wanted to pick up on Steve. Thank you for, and I know we didn't have a chance to talk about the budget, but I just want to reiterate that it is such a scary proposition because we have no, and Lisa, I know that you've done work on this, and I think this is going to be part of the work for us right now, but we need to paint a picture of what this looks like in 2 years after the buy down. It's going to be Armageddon. And no story about how we were really smart with dealing with something in our is going to matter at all. And everyone in Montpelier knows it, and that's why they're all doing the buy downs. And so part of our story is filling that negative space. And I know that's not exactly what a school board does. And I don't know who it's supposed to. I thought my legislators were. But there's this gap, and the letter, I think, articulates that too. But it's how these are connected. There's not really I don't see how this isn't something that blows up in 2 years, no matter what we do, because the dollars are just going to be too great. I might not even vote for it. It's like, this is ridiculous. So I'll vote for it. I'm just saying, at a certain point, we're voting for a faulty, for bad math, right? We're just endorsing a really problematic conversation that is distracting everyone from hard conversations our politicians failed to have. And so when we talk about the budget, I just want to paint in everything else. You know what I mean? But we also need to put forward a really smart budget that starts with our values, doesn't waste money, does like what competent organizations do, and we will, and we have, and I want to definitely stipulate that. But unfortunately, I think the battle's going to be fought everywhere else.
Well, we're going to jump into the fray everywhere we can, and we are going to try to do as much testifying as we can and poking and pointing out and being loud, because we're that close to Montpelier. It's incumbent on noisy, obnoxious people like us. Maybe not Carl. He's not obnoxious. But the rest of us, we really do need to be heard. I mean, this is that time. If we're not that group, I don't know who we are. So thank you, Macon, for that. And thank you, Steve. I thought that meeting was really productive. And between Mike and these guys and the rest of us, we really put together something. So I hope everyone's had a chance to read that. Okay, that concludes board updates.
Career board.
Hey, yeah, if you've got something. Bobby is our new career center rep, and that's a new position for her. She took it over from Corey. I'd love to hear about that, Bobby. Go ahead.
Well, just briefly, I mean, it was basically a reorg meeting, but they have two committees. You'll be interested to know. One of them is facilities and the other is program quality. I just got an email today, actually, about when the next meetings are. I was unable to attend the first meeting in person because I was sick, but I was able to go on Zoom, so that worked out quite well. And I'm particularly interested in their committees. I was actually interested in hearing that it's still on the table, a piece of property they were looking at in Berlin, and they are talking about at that property a possible regional high school model. So there'll be more coming, and I guess we just have to hear what's going on, but they're in the same boat as we are. I mean, actually they have students. They don't have room for all their enrollees, and I think they're in a good position, at least in terms of the current governor supporting their type of programming. But I think it could benefit all of us. So I'm excited to be part of that, and I'll keep you clued in. My next meeting is April 13th.
Well, thank you for taking that post. And I agree, the Career Center is an important entity. And Jody, the leader, the chief bottle washer, does every single thing to guide the Career Center. She's good. She's really great.
But
great.
Before we close that out, can I just something that stuck with me when we were talking about building use was, when we're talking about consolidation, closing, whatever it is, Dr. Mike, can you speak to what it was they were speaking about regarding certification when we talk about moving different groups and classes?
Just to be careful of building configuration, because there's certain patterns of licensing, and generally, if you come up with some interesting combinations that don't necessarily correspond with your early childhood elementary or intermediate childhood elementary versus your secondary, generally grades, middle school to high school, that it can get problematic if you are changing based on our current staffing model. Most of our buildings are either K to 6 or kind of our one different combination is Crossett Brook 5 to 8, and they do operate more as a 5-6 more in the elementary realm, and a 7-8 more in the middle school realm. So if you're making there were some combinations that were not recommended by our team just because they would be problematic with our current staffing that we have.
Okay, the next part of the meeting is we're going to have a discussion. It's on 2 topics. This is 30 minutes on the impact of S220. And then second, we'll be hearing about the boosters' advertising ideas for how to raise some money for sports. So I'll turn it over to Lisa and Dr. Mike to talk about S220.
So one of the questions, and we had a more in-depth discussion last night with the outreach committee, but I had asked Lisa to put together a range of the impacts on our school district related to the excess spending threshold. Senate Bill 220, which is now being considered by House Ways and Means, would lower that threshold to 112%. And I sent some information to the board today based on the Joint Fiscal Office modeling of what that looks like for districts. We would be one of those districts that would be impacted if they moved to 112%. So I thought it would be wise for Lisa to share, because we know in the legislative process, if there's 118% to 112%, sometimes there's some negotiations that occur and they come out with a different percent. So I asked Lisa to put together some information for you. And one, like many things with our education funding formula, and I was saying before the meeting, again, moving here 4 years ago from another state, I never saw such a complex system that's so hard to understand. It took me a full year to feel like I could at least somewhat talk about it in an intelligent way. And Lisa coming from Rutgers University, also had the same kind of experience too. But one of the things I have to remind everyone is when they shifted with Act 127 to different weights, prior to that time and in years past, our district was always considered to be one of the highest spending districts. On paper, we're still a higher spending district, but that is when you look at the long-term weighted average daily membership. If you take a look, and you can't really find this on the Agency of Education website, but if you look at just our average daily membership divided by our budget, we are not in the top. We are lower. There's good reason. The reasoning why the state moved to that is to make sure we're equitable in how we fund students who have different kinds of needs and require more extensive programs. But there are some areas, and this has also been discussed by some on the Ways and Means Committee, mainly Representative Holcomb, who has pointed out that there are examples in the weighting formula that have applied that don't make sense or were not recommended by the consultants who came up with that process, mainly Dr. Colby, and they have weighted programs for tuitioning students who don't operate their own districts, and that was not intended to be that way. So there's some complications with how that is, but it's really hard when we look at those numbers because we're looking at them with weighted students and not how many students we have, and that's what the excess spending threshold is based on. No, how many we have with the weighting.
Okay. So I'll quickly go through this. You can go to the next page. So I just want to remind everybody, not that I have to, but the biggest drivers of our cost increases, and Macon knows these well, we talked about this last night at the meeting, is health insurance, special education, evaluations, mental health issues under special education, transportation, and energy costs. And I just wanted to point out in the upper right-hand column, you'll see the health increase costs over the last 6 years. And in the last 3 years alone, it was 35.7%. The last 4 years is 48%, which is astronomical. The little blip in there is in fiscal year 23, it was only 5%. But remember, health rates are evaluated in the December before that next year. So COVID hit in fiscal year 22 of February. So that rate was already set for that year in fiscal year 23 for 5%.
And I would just add, I came from a school district where we had a pool of insurance, but we were self-funded. So we managed in a consortium our own healthcare. And during COVID, we saw a significant drop because that was also true with that year as well. We saw a significant drop because people during COVID did not have elective surgery. So costs were lower because of the restrictions for medical facilities.
Okay. Our cost per our spending per equalized pupil is $16,228. The excess spending threshold currently forecasted for fiscal year 27 is $16,470. So we're slightly below that, 241. That was our target. We wanted to be below that, and we actually have been smack up against that excess spending threshold over the last many years. So we are right up against that. So if that excess spending threshold that is currently at 118% above the state average, if that number changes, everything will change. And remember, anything over that penalty, over that excess spending threshold, for every dollar over, we're taxed an additional dollar. So we're double taxed on that. Next slide. So again, any small increase can lead to disproportional large tax increases post CLA. So we have to keep track of that and keep that in mind. The challenge is equalized pupil counts change each year. Legislative changes, the threshold is changing, especially talking about S220 now. The statewide spending average changes. It all depends on what all the districts submit in for their budget and what the average changes. So these challenges change every year. And then also the CLAs change every year. And then the state adjustment as well changes. Current year is the statewide adjustment for CLAs is 72%. The prior year was 70%. So that changes every year. So what I wanted to be able to share with you is what we would currently look like. And then I also did something if we were to take out a bond with all the different rates. So right now, with our current debt, we have current debt of $563,816. Now, I want to remind everybody, if we do not exceed the excess spending threshold, then we can't use that debt exclusion to buy the excess, our cost per pupil down even further, only if we exceed that excess spending threshold. Okay. So in the current review right now, with our debt and with the current excess spending threshold of 16,470, we do not exceed it. Our current number is 16,228. However, if the excess spending threshold drops to 116%, we exceed the excess spending threshold. because the new excess spending threshold drops from 16,470 down to 16,191 at 116%. We exceed that. You'll see it drops down to 16,014. But we are able to then, because we're exceeding that, we're able to then use the debt exclusion. So we're able to reduce it by our debt of $816. So you'll see we actually meet every one of these calculations for our current debt at each of these percentages. But now this is complicated, so I'm going to take this slow. Go to the next slide. We want to then see how that affects us. So at 116%, we absolutely can apply the exclusion because we're still under the excess spending threshold, so there's no penalty. At 115, we're only $37 under the excess spending threshold. There's no penalty. However, when you go to 114, we are exceeding that excess spending threshold. You'll see at $15,915 versus 16,014, we're exceeding that. There is some slightly rounding errors here. There's a couple dollars here and there because I actually did it to the penny in Excel. So we're actually exceeding that. So for every dollar over, we get penalized an additional dollar. So our penalty would be $262,506 that would be added to our ed spending, and we would have an adjusted ed spending number. And I want to remind everybody what ed spending is. Ed spending is the number that is what we need to fund our budget with. We have our actual budget and our revenues. You net our revenues against our actual budget, and that gives us our ed spending dollars. And that's what we actually are asking the state to fund for our expenses. When you exceed the excess spending threshold, you have a penalty. With that penalty, that gets added to your ed spending, and you then have an adjusted ed spending. Okay. And I'll walk you through the numbers on the next couple spreadsheets. So at 112%, we're actually exceeding the excess spending threshold of $382, and it would be $1 million penalty. That would then get added to our ed spend.
So can I just ask a question? So if S220 with 112% had been in effect this year, would we have had to cut another $1 million from the budget?
If you didn't want it to apply to tax rates, yes.
Yeah.
To be under that excess spending threshold.
Yeah.
Oh, look, other question. So how does that debt, we're not allowed to use the debt so I want to know how that works.
The spreadsheets, I included the snapshot of my spreadsheet so it'll be easier to see. You can only apply your debt as an exclusion if you exceed the excess spending threshold. If you don't exceed the excess spending threshold, you can't count it. It's still part of your ed spending.
So if that's the case with this adjustment to 220 that has them removing the debt service from the problem, does that help us?
In a way, we'll get there.
That's the one step forward, two steps back line from your letter.
But there it is. At a point, there's a problem. So I just want to remind everybody right now in this scenario, any debt prior to 2024, it doesn't count against us, okay? Any new debt can't, if we were to add new debt without S220, if we were to add new debt, it would be calculated. So right now with S220, they're going to remove it. They're talking about removing it.
Yeah, they're trying to make it easier for us to go into debt to cover for their deadbeat actions. It's insane. I just want to make sure everyone's following this. They can't figure it out, so now they're making it easier for us to go into debt to cover it. Correct. I'm irate about that. I just want to make sure I understood that.
Yes, right. So they'll with S220, they'll take it out. They'll take the debt. You'll be able to deduct it as an exclusion, new debt. However, then they'll lower that excess spending threshold percentage, and that really hits us on the tax rate. So
I don't think there's a way for us to have an answer to this question, but when the powers that be sat around a table and tried to put together S220, did they look at a school budget? Did they look at an actual school budget and to see how it would actually, because I just find myself actually just getting angrier and angrier. Like it doesn't make any sense how any of this can seem like it is going to be good in any way. And in fact, it's going to make the community and taxpayers hate us as board members even more.
That's the design. It's not an accident. That's the thing, right? And if I could just make a point here, like, yeah, it's, you know, I'm going to take a minute. I don't want you to finish.
My
Sorry,
dad would call it a boondoggle. It doesn't make any sense, Catherine. Then
just to confirm, we are currently in $500,000 worth of debt.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
we currently have some debt. Some of that debt comes off in fiscal year 28, a smidgen of it, and about another 200,000 comes off in fiscal year 29, and then 32 and 37. So we actually have 5 water loans for our schools. We have a debt on Brookside, and we're also paying a debt on Warren still. So we're paying it off every year. Yes, these were.
I just want to, as the pilot who understands math, when Steve said to cut, we'd have to cut $1 million to save the $1 million penalty. But wouldn't we have to cut $3.5 million because there's like 1,700 students and we have to cut $382 out of our per pupil spending? So to save that $1 million, we'd have to cut almost $4 million.
Oh, because we've already cut some. So this is what you would have to cut out. So an additional cut, because remember, we've already cut.
But I thought the amount over would be $382, so we get taxed $2 for every $1 over.
Right.
Okay.
I'll walk you through it.
Okay, later, yeah.
So this is actually related to the debt. And my memory is foggy, but isn't there some loan that we think or a reimbursement from the government that keeps getting rejected, and then if that doesn't actually get paid, then it's another 200,000 that goes into whatever the number is? I'm ahead of the game. That's a first. Yes, the ESSER money. Yes.
I told everybody. Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, wait, no. I was going to tell you at the end. I could have told you at the end after.
I retract my question.
So I'm sorry. I thought I had shared this already. We actually finally, there was no notification to Mike or I from AOE. It was just dropped in our bank of $502,000 for the ARP ESSER money. So this is the money that was outstanding that I've accrued forever. We sent in, I'm blank on the word, appeals. We sent in 3 different appeals. We worked with Bernie Sanders' office, and we did finally get it deposited. And it's interesting because AOE still has not contacted us to let us know.
And I even sent a message thanking the person who was helping us, and we never heard back. But for any new board member who doesn't necessarily know the context, there was money that was awarded from the federal government during COVID to help with learning loss programs. So the last year of the program, we used money that summer for some of our summer programming, and it had to be expended by September 30th. So we used it through August. It takes a lot of time for Lisa and her office to account for it. So normally they let you defer that and submit late because it was such a close deadline, and that submission corresponded with the new administration in Washington and all the reductions. So all of a sudden, a lot of that money was cut. It did not get reimbursed to us. We were on the hook for it. Senator Sanders' office was helping us and other districts who were still owed money to get that. And but we've been on kind of pins and needles, so to speak, to see if we would get it. Otherwise, we had to absorb it out of our reserves. So that was good news. So I think we're at the point where we're just not asking a lot of questions because it is in the bank account.
They don't take it back.
So a basic question about the excess spending threshold. Does it increase year to year and take into account healthcare, rising costs, transportation, special ed? So those it doesn't track any of that. Okay.
How you make what the excess spending threshold is, it's the average cost per pupil throughout the state. So they look at all the school district's budget and they average that cost per pupil out. And right now the current formula is they allow up to 118% over that average, and they times it by for the NEEP. Times it by the NEEP, and then that's what the rate is, what the cost per pupil is.
It essentially takes into account the prior year's healthcare costs, all of that, but everyone in the whole state is trying to make last year's numbers. Last year's, the dollars that could have worked for the prior year work for this next year with rising costs. Is that right? That basically, like, you're trying to fit last year's square peg into next year's round hole.
Correct. They look at the prior year, and they also look at the current year of what the early budgets are being reported. The state asks us to report what I think our budget is going to be in early December, and I always put a number in. All of the school districts do, so then they can get an average, then to come out with what they think it's going to be for the next current fiscal year, and then they also look back at last year's, and then they do an average. So they take that cost per pupil, and then they times it by 118% times the NEEP, and then that would be what the new excess spending threshold would be.
And
that's exactly what I was going to do.
Submit really high budgets.
Yeah, Caitlin first. Caitlin, then Macon. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Can we just get together with all the other school districts and just put in outrageously high budgets?
You can't do that. Because then the December tax letter is going to come out, and it's going to be very scary.
Macon, go ahead.
So, yeah, sorry, I kind of short-circuited earlier. I think that to the point you were making earlier about how healthcare and these drivers are not separated out, to me, that should be like an objective of the State School Board Association. Like, we need to figure out how to make that this. So when Conlin wants to have spending caps, sure, cap our spending, but cap yours too. Let's have a conversation about the spending you can control. And let's make that part of this conversation, not just limiting our little 25%. But here's the thing I want to say. I grew up in Alabama. This is where I would cut the football team. We need to find $1 million. Let's get rid of every sport. Let's get rid of every extracurricular activity, every gifted program, every single thing we can cut. And I don't like saying it, but the truth is, what else are we supposed to do? And we should put very clearly the consequence of an extra $1 million, because we only get 300,000 from sports. We already cut 400, right? We don't even get to $1 million doing all of that. It's ridiculous, right? And so alternatively, or maybe also we could say, yeah, we're going to close Facein. That won't help, right? How do we say that? We just decided to close Facein. Everyone will pay attention, right? That's the point. Because with all due respect to Lisa, and I say this every meeting, I love you, but if we go wrestle with them and the carried over numbers from the weighted thing to the what, we've lost. That's how they've set up the game. It's a question of choices, right? They are doing a huge amount of buy downs. All of this could be taken care of if they decided not to. So it's not about complicated stuff, all due respect. This is about choices. So let's put a choice forward for our community to understand. If you want to see, and I just coached the kids' baseball team before this meeting. So this breaks my heart. But if we don't make it clear to people, they won't understand. So let's cut it where it hurts so people understand. Anyway, I'll stop there, but we have to change this argument, or everyone's going to ignore us until 2 years from now, where they're going to torch us.
Right. So I just want to chime in real quick and say that what you just said, all these conversations that we're in the middle of, that's one of the reasons why we had the meeting last night and we have that letter that's going. Because the other thing that is just so frustrating about, it doesn't matter how passionate any one of us is in this room, if this at the state level, if in the state house, nobody is blank listening to us, then it's not going to make a bit of difference. And then it just goes back to, again, at the end of the day, school boards making wrong decisions about budgets, but we don't have a choice. And what is happening right now with 73 and S22, there's no real solutions that are coming out. There's not really any addressing of how to fix the problems. But what our task is how do we advocate to the best of our ability? Because at the end of the day, what's also frustrating, there's only so much that we can do. But what we can do is write these letters. We can, get the messages out to the community. We can make sure that people are seeing what it is that we're trying to do, and that what we're seeing coming out of the State House and what we're facing next year is terrifying. Like so we should both stop and let Lisa
go. But
continue.
here. Yeah.
We thank you for the passion, though, and I think the shared frustration at this table is clear. I mean, we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't. We don't have a lot of options. Our one option, and gosh, Macon, you seem like you're going to rock at this, and is we just have to be a pain in the ass. That's our best.
I think
we have to.
I got to go one step further. And again, I mean, the thing I was going to say to Emily is I just really appreciate what you're saying. It's so hard because our first and foremost job is to make sure our kids have a good education, that school's open on time, right? That we figure out how to navigate new tech and AI and all these other things, and how kids feel in this great, crazy world. But instead, we have to explain to our neighbors how we can't really handle their property taxes. That's what we do. And it's so tragic. So I'm with you. But I think we have to be able to point to alternatives. We have to say cap healthcare right now if you want to cap education. There are ideas. There are people running for governor. But I think the school board has a responsibility to articulate the path to sustainability, not just to be seen as intransigent. And that's hard, but it's what our neighbors want. And so that may be beyond the scope of the school board. That's what's really scary, and not for us.
It is.
So anyway.
Thank you.
Can I make a point of order? I think we all know how we feel.
We do.
I'd like to hear the rest of this presentation.
All right, go ahead, Lisa. Thank you, Bobby.
My computer froze, unfortunately, so I'm going to have to read up here. Oh, some of my slides. Okay, so this is what I share with you guys during every budget meeting during budget season, and I constantly use this same formula so you can track it. And Megan, I just want to say, this is my job, is to be able to share with you how these formulas affect everything. So this is why it's important for me to share so you all have an understanding of it. So right now, you'll see in the first column, it says our approved budget, and we're at $241 under our excess spending threshold. You'll see at 116, the numbers in black would be the new excess spending threshold. So if you look at that, our adjusted excess spending threshold, I'm sorry, let me start at the first top number of 16,228. You'll see we're above the estimated 116 excess spending threshold. So in this in this instance, at 116%, we can use the debt exclusion. And this is using our current debt of $563,000. So here, because we exceeded the excess spending, the new excess spending threshold of $16,191, we can exclude our debt. And that brings us down to $176 under the excess spending threshold. So that's at 116%. At 114%, you'll see we actually exceed the excess spending threshold, even using the debt exclusion. We exceed it by $100, and that then cost us for a penalty of $262,506. So you would take that amount and you would then apply it to what our total educational spend, which is $42.6 million. You would take that amount, and our new adjusted educational spend would be $42.8 million. Okay, and the same thing for at 112%, we would be at $382 over the excess spending threshold. The debt exclusion counts here to buy down our cost per pupil, but we're still penalized by $1 million. And then our adjusted ed spending number goes up to $43.6 million. That's using our current debt. Right now. In S220, they're talking about lowering it to 116, well, between 100 and it looks like it's 112, but they're talking about different numbers. So I wanted to be able to share different numbers. On a couple spreadsheets ahead that we first looked, I calculated at each number, each percentage, but right now I just displayed it's 116, 114, and 112. So that's at our current debt. If you go to the next slide. Okay. So if you go to this slide, now we want to see how it's going to apply to our tax rate. We then have to apply that to our district tax rate, pre-CLA. So if you recall, we take our new adjusted ed spending and then we apply it to the normal calculation, and we come up with our district tax rate then goes up 1 penny by 114%. At 112%, it goes up several cents. So this is pre-CLA. Our current tax rate, I'm sorry, my computer's frozen. Our current tax rate is our current approved tax rate for fiscal year 27 is $1.76. So you'll see at 114% excess spending threshold is at $1.77. It goes up, and at 112%, it's $1.80. It goes up, and those then would be applied to each of the town's CLAs. Next slide. And that's still using, without the buy down number and the new yield, I'm using the forecasted December 1st yield number of 88,849. So I just wanted to plug in what it looks like, and I tried $10 million bond, $20 million bond, $30 million bond. So I settled on a $20 million in the middle. So looking at a $20 million bond over a 20-year payback and the interest rate, the first year would be $1.7 million in terms of additional debt. We would have to add that to our current $563,000. So in looking at that, the numbers don't change. Because remember, in S, they're talking about now allowing new debt to be excluded. So the numbers really don't change. We still would be exceeding at 114% and 112%. We would be exceeding, and the penalty is the same. However, when you go to the next slide, those numbers change drastically when you add that in to the new excess spending threshold, and then you apply it to our district tax rate. And if you go to the next slide. So the district tax rate at 116%, we actually do better. We drop down 2 cents because now we're allowed to exclude more debt. So our district tax rate at 116% actually drops with the new debt exclusion. But at 114, it jumps from $1.76 to $1.85. And at 112, which is part of S220, it goes from current forecasted at $1.76 to $1.88 to our district tax rate. That would then be applied to the town's CLAs. And that number at 112% significantly impacts property taxes. Any one of those at 114 and 112.
Can you just put that in like for the average homeowner of a property?
It's over 35%.
So they would go up by 35% in 1 year?
Yeah. Yeah. On an average. And I can give you, I didn't want to complicate with all the different spreadsheets, but I can show you at each one of these different rates, the impact at each town using the current CLA.
Would it go up by 30% unless we cut another million?
Yes, I'm talking about if we incorporate the penalty into the ed spending, having a new net ed spending. If you did, cut more so you don't exceed that threshold, then it wouldn't.
Like if we want sports, property taxes are going to go up by 30%. It's cool.
Correct.
Just two questions to make sure. This would, if this passes, we would have to do this to this current budget for next year, or is this... It's the next year. Okay. Yeah. Just making sure that they're not like really pulling the rug out under us.
Well, they did that 2 years ago. Remember when they had the cap of the 5%? However, this would be for fiscal year 28. Right now, we're set what the current rate is of $1.76.
And then, sorry, I missed the new debt. What's the purpose of the new debt?
I was plugging in a new debt where if we were to ever take out a small bond for some deferred maintenance, we have over close to $100 million in deferred maintenance. I just plugged in some numbers. Current rate for debt with the Vermont Bond Bank is about 4%. So I just plugged in and got what the rates would be. But I just picked 20 million. I mean, I could put whatever number.
There is some sense to that, and that is that when we have discussed in the building use and visioning group, we've been hesitant to put a bond out at all because of the tax implications, but we have discussed the potential of dipping our toe there with a $20 million bond to cherry pick all of our most broken things across the district, basically, especially Harwood.
But so right now, that would have to be, that's in our education spend dollars. So we've avoided doing anything like that because it just was added so much to that. And so that's the one piece of S220 that we say is maybe.
It's like in a carrot stick game. It's like a bite of a carrot.
So the new debt is to say, okay, this enables something new that we couldn't do before. What does the impact of adding this debt look like under that new scenario?
Right. So under S20, you're allowed to exclude new debt. Right now, you cannot exclude it, and adds to your ed spending number. And just remember, ed spending is really important. That's what we actually asked the state to fund for our expenses for our school district. And that was an increase of 3.4% this year. Even though our educational year over year expense budget was 5.44, we're only asking the state to increase our expenses by 3.4%. That's key.
Great. Thank you.
So I'm a little confused. If we took out not 20 million, but 40 or 80 billion, then we'd have a lot more debt. And then at 112%, would we presumably be under the excess spending threshold? And,
it depends on the number.
Right, but that's the general idea.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So as Macon said, this in effect encourages us to float bonds.
Yeah, I got to work the numbers.
It still results in a higher tax rate.
But it's
Right.
suggesting like basically.
But it doesn't. We don't get penalized for taxing people. It's the part that you're right. It doesn't. That's the part that defies common.
It is encouraging you to have debt because in that 116 percentage, for example, like because we have debt, we can buy it back. So it is encouraging debt at a high level. The exact amount, depending on the payback, is to be determined. But at a very basic level, it's saying we're not going to pay more, but if you take out your own dollars, then we won't charge you for that.
The lower the percentage, it also, keep in mind, post CLA, it impacts taxes. So just
okay.
So in effect, the state is saying, legislature is saying, well, we're not going to deal with healthcare costs, but we do encourage you to max out your credit card.
Yeah.
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 So, and I also,
As I just chime in, but it's like, yeah, max out your card, but like, we're all pretty sure in 3 years it's all going to burn up, right? Like, there's not sort of a like, how does this end in 10? You know what I mean? Like, there's a strategy of having it not work in a few years. And that's what's scary to me.
Well, and it's also true that at the same time that they're saying that and encouraging us to build up our debt, they're reducing the amount that they're going to give us per student. So we wind up over the expending. We have that whole calculation that we did of, well, how much if we can take the bond out, if we can take that debt out, then at 112%, we're still just screwed. Right? Is that right?
Her computer's dead. Okay. Okay, what does this mean?
age is just to share with you currently right now, there are at the current rate of 118, there's a little between 10 and 12%. I can't get the accurate number. Some places say 12, some places say 10. And at 116%, it would push more districts over the excess spending threshold and down to 110. There would be actually 40 districts over the excess spending threshold.
Out of our 119.
Out of 119.
So more than a third would suffer. Yeah.
Cool. Any questions?
And more than a third. Yeah, and I'm looking at Dr. Rosenberg, who's the math professor. When you're dealing with averages and over averages, doesn't it make sense that you would have a third who would be over that average, roughly. So the design of it does also make you scratch your head a little bit too.
It's either they're up in Montpelier in a vacuum or there is a plot. It's hard to decide what's going on. Okay. Do we have any more questions on this presentation? Because we have more discussion items if we don't. All right. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Dr. Mike. Okay. The second half of discussion is about the Harwood boosters have sent us. Oh, sorry. Yes, this is the point. Good. Thank you, Steve. We are going to, we have written a letter on public outreach that I hope everyone at this table has read. Maybe not our newest board member.
You should read it.
I'll read it.
Read into the record.
Okay. I will do that. It really, and it came out great. Okay. Dear, this is going to be from, the reason we're reading out is we would like it to be from all of us. Dear Chairman Kornheiser, if your family's health care costs go up 36% in 3 years, you can't just slash the grocery bill to pay for it. But that's exactly what S220 asks school boards to do. Cut classroom costs to cover costs we don't control. It caps our budget while ignoring the very cost drivers pushing them up: healthcare, special ed, benefits, heating costs, and transportation. Our board directly controls only about 25 cents of every educational dollar. The other 75 cents made up of healthcare premiums, special ed costs, benefit obligations is set by the state, by federal law, or by hospital pricing over which we have no control. This year, those fixed costs rose faster than our entire budget. S220 caps our 25% without touching the rest. That's not a spending cap. It's a cost shift onto our kids. The HUUSD community is doing our part. This year, we started with last year's budget and found another $1 million to cut from just the quarter we control. Over just a 3-year period, we are down $7.2 million, which is about 37% of the budget we control. It's not pretty. The board gets regular photo updates of the root balls growing in our high school septic system. The state found PCBs at the Warren School and then gave up on testing the rest. That's the view from our board's meetings in Duxbury. Now let's check in on the legislature in Montpelier and the 75% of the HUUSD's budget it controls. Healthcare costs are up 36% in 3 years. Special education is up 21% in this year alone. These structural costs are skyrocketing and get worse every year. Proposals like CESAs and shared services offer real ways to bring them down. S220 doesn't even try. Even the one bright spot, removing voter-approved debt from per pupil calculations, is a step forward before taking 2 steps back. S220's lower spending threshold penalizes Harwood far more than the debt adjustment helps it. Our ask is simple. Stop shifting costs to school boards that you haven't been able to fix. Today's kindergartners deserve real policy that will make sure there's a high school waiting for them. Sincerely, the Harwood School Board. We're up for input, and if people, I like it, but if people have subtle changes, we can do that. But how do we feel about this letter? Okay, first let's hear. Oh, yeah, okay. Bobby makes a motion.
Okay,
go ahead.
I'll make a motion.
Could we sign on to it as well? If
Absolutely.
people are interested, I would like to sign on to it.
Okay. That seems like a great idea. All right, Bobby, make a motion.
I make a motion that we send this as a school board to the House Ways and Means Committee chair.
Second.
Yeah. And say including the students.
Including student board members.
Yes, and we're going to send it to all committee members on Ways and Means and Kornheiser.
All right, so I'll reword that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I make a motion that we, as a collective board, including every member, including students, send this letter to the House Committee on Ways and Means, including all committee members.
And we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand to say aye. Aye. That everyone? Do we have any abstentions or nays? Okay. All right. That's unanimous. We'll send the letter tomorrow and we'll make it from all of us. Thank you to Stephen Macon for that hard work on that and everyone who contributed.
Yeah. Actually, Lisa spent a lot of time working on it, so she should.
And Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, we will publish that also. I mean, we'll send it to the State House, but we'll make sure it's in all of our local media so people can, we'll do that.
Can I offer one additional thought on this?
Yes.
In addition to just saying thanks again to Lisa, it's like such a service to have someone who can look at your stuff and like check your math. And so we're really lucky to have Lisa here. I don't know if it's appropriate, but I think at a certain point it'd be interesting to get a math teacher to do like a breakdown on how dumb this is. Because like I feel like part of the issue is like we just need to teach it, right? Like, and again, Lisa, you do a great job. You're at a level of complexity. I think regular voters, it's hard for them. But like an 8th grade math teacher with some chalk being like, hey, all right, let me just explain why we're cutting sports or whatever. I know I'm on that, but like I'm just saying like we should think about how we can communicate beyond just a letter. And I think framing this out in a letter gets us, that kind of message guidance. And all of us should think about ways we can amplify it in social media and otherwise, because Ashley really put down a bunch of good phrases to use.
Interestingly, Harwood is very well known for this thing we do here called Harkness, which is, don't you start moaning over there. It's a good thing, and you know it. Harkness is a method of having a discussion in a group where it kind of involves sitting in a circle and everyone being heard. Hold on. I know, but I want to finish the point I'm trying to make. Yeah, I went here, but way before that. Although the teacher that taught that, Kathy Cadwell, was my teacher as a freshman here and is an amazing person. But I do want to hear from you, Grady. My point is, I see Molly Gray sitting in our audience because she cares about this. We keep hearing from each other that we feel like they're not listening. Are the people at the state level sitting at a table in a room with their doing this to not hear what our real problems are? They have to know. So I'm wondering if we keep inviting our reps to come here. Maybe we need to shoot for the stars and invite the big people to come here and Harkness with us and hear about it and have to face actual human beings and students who will have real input. I mean, we want to shake it up, bring them here. It's 10 minutes from here. I'm just saying. Grady, please add to that.
Is the big ideas of it is it's not a debate, it's a discussion. And that this is the only thing that I feel like is a little bit off of what we're trying to do. But Harkness also is not designed to get an answer, which is also it's both what we're trying to do and trying not to do, because we're trying to get them to hear us and come up with an answer. But sometimes it's good for them to just hear what's going on. Yeah, it's not that. That's why it's not a debate. You're not trying to convince them of something. You're talking and you're sharing your point, and then they share their point. So you hear their point of view and they hear your point of view, and then you can kind of go after like one of their points, not like aggressively, but be like, can you explain this more? Can you dig deeper into it? The class is called Harkness Leadership, and everybody from 10th grade and up is able to take it. And I think a majority of the students at Harwood are Harkness leaders,
which means we could do that event.
So against everything I say, but it's good. It's I owned because they've been using it a lot recently, and I want to go home, and they make us do them. But it is a very good tool that we have available.
I don't know if this is appropriate for me now. I'm looking at the agenda and I'm thinking I don't have time later for other business. This is sort of related to what we're talking about, and also recognizing that we have a candidate in the room running for lieutenant governor. And I just want to remind people that we need a change in Vermont, a big change. And I don't know how people feel about the current governor. I don't know whether you're Republican or Democrat, but it's time for a change. We have a Republican governor who is threatening that he will veto anything that doesn't include what he wants in it. And he's not solving the problems. We need a change. I'm going to tell you that May 30th, the Washington County Democrats are going to be holding a major fundraiser just from 12 to 3 at Camp Meade. It'll be $25 a person. We'll have some prizes and food and different things. I'm hoping people will come and help support it, but it's really time that everybody has to jump in, regardless of how you feel about how the Democratic Party handled 2024. We really are in trouble now, and we really need your support. And that's it. I'll get off my soapbox.
Your Democratic soapbox. Thank you, Bobby. Okay, we are passionate as we are about this. I do think we should talk about an event of some kind where we ask more than just a handful of our local reps to come, of an event where we literally throw down the gauntlet in some way. But we do need to move on. So one last point, if you want to make it.
You know what? I think we can follow up on this in the engagement meeting. I just appreciate learning about it, and I'll stop talking. But
No, I thank you though. Okay, so we're going to hear from Lisa and Mike about what the Harwood boosters are proposing to help raise money for the things that they need that we can't afford to get for them. Yes, please.
So Lisa and I will both discuss this, and we've mentioned that we have a active booster club with parents, and I know that there are some people at this table who have either attended meetings or been part of that, and what they are trying to do has been discussed as we've had to cut from the budget up to this point of items that are supplies, uniforms, reducing some positions for sports. We have not had to reduce any extracurricular activities per se yet, but I will also mention as an aside that Lisa and I have been working with Meg and Ian because they've been charged with doing further reductions to their budget. And what they are going to start, what they have modeled as a draft letter and survey to send out to families saying, and I can just give you a kind of a brief piece. We are beginning a comprehensive review of our non-classroom expenditures, including co-curricular programs, athletics, and transportation. At this stage, no decisions have been made. The process is not about eliminating programs outright, but rather about better understanding priorities. So what they're creating a whole survey of a list of all the kinds of programs, extracurricular programs, to get a feel for where parents are. So if we have to, eliminate to a greater degree, they'll have some data to say, this is what parents say that they can tolerate first before other pieces. So that is going to go out. I am sure that there will be people concerned about it. The point at this time is really to help understand and to start having those discussions. I think to your point, Macon, that we have to start discussing those things because there's not a lot of flexibility.
I think we just need we need to make sure we have it covered on the admin costs, right? Just to really be able to tell the story, because that's what you hear from a lot of people. Oh, well, what about the admin, all that? And we do, right? And I think Lisa's really made that clear. I think that's the main one that I hear that comes up. But,
right.
Yeah.
So that's a piece that is an aside, but we are also, we've been working with them. They are working on an advertising program, and the information that we had sent out is what they have as a draft. They're looking to sell to local businesses the ability to advertise in spaces that we use, outdoor spaces, some select indoor spaces, to generate revenue that they can then use with our participation as administration, high school administration, Lisa, myself, to be able to support broadly extracurricular programs. So we have reviewed this. We've sat down with them. We've reviewed some drafts. We've given them feedback, and they've come back. And then this is where we are right now. Before moving any further, we wanted to share it with the board to get your input and your thoughts of whether you thought this was a good idea to move forward with. There's still some review that has to occur. Lisa wants to send it to our legal counsel for review to make sure. So you did get that back? Okay. But this is where we are right now, and we felt it was important to share with the board to see how you are feeling on potential advertisement in some of our spaces.
While it's something that I think many of us have not necessarily seen at schools, when you go to other sporting events outside of schools, you'll see that there are the banners and posters, for sponsorships. I think it builds, community and shows that local businesses and organizations are wanting to support sports. But also, I think in looking at this, as we talk about what are we going to have to talk about with hard decisions, doing whatever we can to support the boosters that then supports the co-curricular activities, I think is even more important now than it has been in the past, because something like having a banner in the hockey arena or down on the baseball field or wherever could be something that saves that sport and has that activity still something that is so important to the community. So I love this, and I hope that it can be a huge success and potentially grow, even more, because I see this turning into something.
And Cashel, do you have? Okay.
Is this just for sports or all extracurricular activities?
At this point, it would just be the identified spaces. So, like the musical pieces like that, we wouldn't have anything up there. But they do have they do their own advertising per se and programs. You can purchase spaces there.
How does it relate to the fundraiser, for example, because was it last year there's a fundraiser for like new curtains and other things?
And that still, that still exists separate from this idea, and that's for contributions to be able to fund upgrading the equipment, which is in bad need of upgrading. Yeah, but thank you for bringing it up. That's a good point. That still is ongoing.
Just that musical things. I remember at Battle of the Bands this year, there was a big Lawson's banner on the front of the stage because they gave a lot of money to for the Battle of the Bands. Yeah. So that was fun. That wasn't during the school day. That was the after school Battle of the Bands. There wasn't a Lawson's thing during the assembly, but no, I feel like local. It depends on the business, obviously, but definitely reaching out. I'm a little salty about it. I'm currently being ghosted by 30 local companies, but I'm feeling that they'll be more open to the idea of sponsor stuff if talk to them in person. But I do think one company has responded and they said they would. But I do think local businesses would be willing if you really go to them and explain why it's so necessary.
And how did we come to those?
They chose them, right?
They chose them in their entry level. So, they want to get as many people to get in and build up their fund because they have a low fund right now and they want to build up a fund. So they thought, make it where many people could have choices, and then they could have where they could have several different locations and still afford it. So this is where they're wanting to start and comparing what other school districts are doing. They kind of set on a not very low but not very high kind of to get more people involved.
The pricing does seem pretty reasonable. Steve and then Theo.
When I go to couples fields and I see advertising from local businesses like Madison Glen and so on, like I like that. It shows nice community support from local businesses. I might feel a little bit different if there was an Amazon banner. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know how you would put in some sort of restriction. I don't know that you could. Amazon won't do it. But I mean, I like the idea. I'm a little bit worried, but I don't think we're at a place where we have to worry yet.
I was on the board for the Stadium over in the Valley for a number of years, and we did fundraising this way. And it isn't easy to get sponsors because these are small businesses with small budgets. But this, I think there's a component of supporting the schools, and I think it could work, and that the kids will have to just try a harder sales pitch. Maybe a little guilt in there would go a long way. Okay, good.
I'm speaking as an individual and not as anybody associated with anything other than myself, but businesses do get hit up a lot.
They do.
And so one of the very difficult things, just to give you like some peace of mind, is that businesses have to sometimes just make the decision of whether or not that fits in with what their company's strategies are for sponsorship. So don't take it personally.
Says the general
Ghosting
manager.
is the worst thing to do, and I've never done that. But I just want to say it is just as hard to be somebody looking for money in sponsorship as being a business who is like, I really wish that I could, but it's not something that is feasible. So I just want to throw that
solid
out
point
there.
Yes. Yes.
Well, and I would say too, just to that point. So I think many of you know I'm part of the Mad River Valley Rotary Club. We had the speaker from Cabot Cheese this morning, from Cabot Co-op, and they give to each of the communities where they have a facility. They give to the local Rotary Club $10,000, and we ask them about that. And their philosophy is they don't have the ability to make those decisions for each of the communities they operate in. So they give it to a recognized organization, and then when people ask them, they'll say, look, we gave a donation, a sizable donation to a community organization, and we would ask you to go to through their grant process. So I think there are to your point, we're not going to get everyone, but there are some who will donate. And I think the other piece I have to say is that this is really an idea that was generated from parents, and we were very impressed. They are willing to put the work in and the effort in, and that's one of the reasons we feel we need to, at least we would recommend to you that it was something we would want to support, because we think it speaks to our parents and our community.
I think it's a great idea. The HARP fundraising organization that's come together to recreate the drama department. I mean, we're very supportive of them. This is just another way. I mean, this is community supplementing what we can't give right now. So I think I am definitely for it.
I just wanted to mention I'm for this, and I heard Steve's concern about, Amazon, and I, of course, wouldn't want Amazon to be sponsoring, but I think that's something we should ask for guidance from the attorney to make sure we're not impacting First Amendment rights as a public entity offering sponsorship opportunities to some, but not all, or how we could bridge that gap.
Thanks, Pam. Go ahead.
So we're putting in some codicils in there based on our policy too. So whether it's board policy, there are certain things that we couldn't advertise. So based on our board policies. So we'll pull that in, and I'll also talk to the lawyer about that, what you just mentioned.
So what are the mechanics of it? Do we have to vote on anything tonight, or this is just information?
What we would want to do, we wanted to get your input. Lisa has sent it to the attorney. We just haven't heard back yet. And what we would want to do at the next, hopefully we have it back for the next meeting. I wanted to give the boosters an idea that yes, the board is supportive or not supportive. And then I think once we get that document finalized, Lisa and I would like to bring it back and have the board take a formal action.
So for tonight, it's just information.
So if there's someone who has strong feelings or wants us to make sure that we do ask a question like Pam just asked, let us know. If we get the feeling from the consensus of the board, this is not something you want us to pursue, then we would drop it. But I'm not hearing that at this point.
No, I think that we're okay. Everyone feel okay with pursuing this as an idea? Okay. All right. We'll wrap on that if we feel we're complete there. Yeah. Great. Okay. Moving on. We have some action items. The long-awaited memorandum of understanding from the town of Warren is finally complete. I hope everyone got a chance to read that. It's a lot. It's Mike has worked hard on it. Lisa's worked hard on it. I've sat in on meetings about it. We worked with Rebecca Campbell and Devin Klein, who is the chair of their select board, and Rebecca's the manager of the town. And between them and Sam Crotinger, we kind of came to what we feel is a solid compromising all between us and the town. And we are having a drawing done, right? That's the one thing I didn't see in the...
So that was, there is in the draft, one of the questions from the town's attorney was on a survey of the property, that we've never had a formal survey done. And this has been in works for a long time. My first meeting after I was hired, but before I officially started, I sat down with Sam Crotinger, who said, Mike, we don't have an MOU. And Sam put a lot of work, a tremendous amount of work into coming up with the first draft and getting it started. And it's just because of changes in the select board. The select board has been wonderful. Devin Corrigan, everyone has been very good to work with. It's just taken time. But what we decided at the last meeting is we did not want a survey to hold up the process. So in the agreement, you'll see a reference to having a survey done. I think it's within 18 months, and that each side the town and the school district would split the cost. And I think that's very important. And I think too, for new board members, we have two unique properties. One is Warren, and the other is Moortown, where the school district owns the building, but it's on a very small property that's mainly owned by the town. And both Warren and Moortown are in that circumstance, which is why we have an MOU for that building. We have one for Moortown as well, but this is the one that has had to be put into place.
So if everyone's read it, do we have any commentary? Go
I
ahead.
just had a quick question to make sure I understood. So we own the building, they own the land, and in the termination, so if as a school board and we decide we can't operate Warren anymore, for example, it says that in the event that HUUSD ceases to use the school building to provide for elementary and pre-kindergarten education, this MOU shall automatically terminate and HUUSD shall have no further rights or responsibilities in relation to the town property, but we still have responsibilities to the building itself.
So two pieces for that. That was really with Act 73 in mind, that the MOU terminates if HUUSD ceases to operate, and then the new entity would have to negotiate with the town. And that we agreed to because it protects the town, and we felt that was important. The other piece, if the board would decide not to operate any of our schools, that's addressed through the articles of agreement that were adopted by all the towns in 2016, 2017 when we merged. And what that says is if the board should say we're not going to have X school anymore, we're not going to operate that as a school, and we want to not have the property on the school district on the school district's rolls anymore, the first right of refusal goes to the town. The town can buy the building for $1. So if
because the district bought it for $1 back in 17.
Right. So the town could conceivably say no. I don't know of a town it would make sense for them to say no to a property that they could take back and sell themselves. So that's the way the articles of agreement work.
Any other questions on that? Okay. So our action items right now are, for this one, is to approve the memorandum, the MOU for Warren. So I'm looking for a motion to approve that. And do we have a tally sheet for that?
Yeah.
We don't have to do a tally vote unless it feels like it's not going to work. So we can do it. Emily makes the motion to accept to approve the memorandum of understanding from Warren, and who seconds? Macon seconded. Okay, Macon seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Everybody saying aye. Any noes or abstentions? All right. He's abstaining. All right, one abstention. We're going to make a note of that. Okay. With that many ayes, that will pass. That's fair. If you didn't read it and you don't want to vote on it, that makes sense. All right, so that will pass. So you can tell Sam, and we're there. And we also looked at the board meeting schedule for the 26-27 school year. Did everyone get a chance to look at that? Yeah, did you look at that, Charlotte? My God. Anyway, so we're looking for a motion to approve the calendar, unless there is discussion or questions. Okay, someone could make that motion.
Move to approve the calendar.
Pam makes a motion. Second.
I second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any abstentions or no votes? No. Great. That will pass. Thank you. The last thing is, this is like doing business that we do here very often to new board members. We're going to have a consent agenda, which is something where we lump things in that are business, that the math has already been done, and we're just approving those choices. This is approving the meeting minutes from 3/18/2026, to approve the board warrant. Lang, can you see the amount of the board warrant for me? Yeah, it's right there. There, let's see that. Approve the warrant for $681,829.98, and also approve the Harwood Union Broadway field trip request. If everyone there was a link to that. So I'm looking for a motion to pass the consent agenda, unless there's discussion or questions on any of those items.
I move to pass the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Emily, first from Lang. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. The next part of our meeting is the last part, and we're nicely ahead of schedule. That is going to be a 30-minute executive session. Students, you may go. Have a nice evening, and we'll see you next time. Everyone else, there'll be a 5-minute break. Use the bathroom, do what you need to do, and then we're going to slide into an executive session.